Hi guys, in this video I am going to show you how to create this beautiful, loose and pretty ambiguous style of flowers, potted flowers, and again respective of all the beautiful potted plants in Costa Brava. We have a little bit of calligraphy involved in here as well, and we're making it as a card. Hi guys, my name is Clarice and welcome to the Costa Brava series here on YouTube. The Costa Brava series is reminiscent of my Costa Brava Watercolour Retreat that is coming up in May 2026. If you are interested in taking such a retreat where we explore watercolor, wine, food, and several experiences off the coast of Spain, check out the link in the description. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. So we're starting off with our Strathmore watercolor cards. They come with envelopes as well, and I think these are fabulous. So instead of just painting on regular paper, let's paint a card. So it's a folded card like this. And so I'm going to do this vertical like so. And for brushes, I'm using my Princeton Velvet Touch, Princeton Neptune number 6 and Princeton Heritage number 3. And for colors, Mailing. So we're going to start off with, I'm going to do the potted plant in gorgeous Costa Brava style colors. And the inspiration for that is this little quick doodle that I had done. It's a super easy technique using wet on wet watercolor and then a little bit of wet on dry. So here we go. Let's begin. I'm going to start off with making sure that my we're going to start off with a pink base, a very diluted version of this. I'm going to take this dirty palette of mine and just roughly mix it on here. So we want it to be a lot of water so that it's a nice fluffy area. So starting with the number 6, I'm going to just dab like so. And then I'm going to take more water on my brush and I am continuing to dab, and I'm going to form like a very organic looking circular shape. Now make sure it's fairly centered, so this way you're not getting it to not sit, I guess, properly on your sheet. You get a little bit more color. Now what you can do at this point, and this is the wet on wet style, which we all love about watercolor, is getting a second color. So I'm going to get an orange and I'm just going to drop some of that into little areas here and there. And now from here, we're going to be building up on this. But before we build up, let's get a little bit of olive green as well. Now, time is of the essence because you're so I'm just adding a little dab of this color here and there. So this is our base light color, and then we're going to go with a darker color. So here we go. Now we're going to get the number 3, and I'm going to get a darker, more potent pink. And I'm going to drop it in to certain areas and watch that beautiful bloom that we get. Stunning. Try and add it, space it out, make it look like little clusters of flowers are happening. Areas like this where the water's just sitting, like help it along. That's the best way to kind of make sure you get results that you like. And remember that for this part, you're getting more color, less water. And then finally, I'm switching out this color. So quickly washing it, getting some of my orange, and I'm going to be dropping some of that in. Even in between the clusters of the pink, I think that would be a nice touch. And then finally, what I want to introduce is a purple. So I'm going to use this little purple over here. Now I don't have I'm going to have to find out what the name of this purple is. I think it's, yeah, I'm not going to try and memorize what that is from memory. Not memorize. I'm not going to try and remember what that is because I feel like I'm going to get it wrong. So again, you see how these are kind of going off in different directions, and I'm kind of adding this mainly in the areas where there's pink, because pink and the purple go really well together. And I like how that pop looks, especially with a little bit of orange going on. So what we're going to do is wash off the brush, and with a clean, damp brush, you're going to kind of help this purple stay within that range. And so I'm kind of using my damp brush to kind of mix the edges into the background, taking away those spidery kind of veiny lines that are happening, or the cauliflower effect. Okay, so just like that. And now again, we're going to go in and get more of this color. So let's get a slightly different variation of the purple. And I'm going to drop that in within these areas here of the purple itself. And then it kind of stands out a bit more. And then just pepper a couple of dots here and there. We don't want too much of the purple going on, so we're going back to the pink. So back to the pink, and now by this time, most of our areas have dried up fairly. So what I'm doing is getting more of a wet on damp effect. So at this point, as you're dropping the color in, you're going to see that the shape, it retains its shape. So you can actually help it look like a flower, but it'll still give you some nice edges. So here we go. This is what I'm doing. Taking some of the color, dropping it in around the edges. I'm going to kind of add little dabs like that, so it looks more like petals hanging out onto the side. Some at the top here too. And now, because it's such a dark color here, I'm just taking my damp brush. So it's clean and it's got water, and I'm going to kind of fluff this. So I'm just taking color directly from the color we have laid down here, and I'm kind of adding more dabs. So this is what I like to call fluffing, where you're kind of going dark in the center and then light on the outsides. And you're allowing these beautiful colors to kind of just gel and blend. Now at the bottom, you'd want darker tones because this is where the shadowy effects are going to be. So now we're just going to get some of the green, which is olive green, and drop some of that olive green in here. So especially in the areas where you see the purple is kind of going in different directions, you can kind of use the green to make it a leaf or what have you, because adding green over the purple will give you a slightly darker tone. Same thing with the pink areas as well. And you're just kind of helping the colors blend in the areas where you feel like it's going a little bit all over the place. Okay, now back to the green. And this time get a nice fresh green as well if you wish. And then again, you're adding little dabs in between and also on the outskirts, because there's normally green on the outside as well. You can absolutely add some at the base here, and you're just adding little dabs of green to indicate this. So take your time, figure out where you want to add stuff. Don't overdo it. And then once you're satisfied we're moving on to the next part. Now, before I kind of end this off, what I'm going to do is get a splatter going. So I've got some leftover green. And I love the splatter because it kind of almost looks like it's little aspects of the flowers extending. Get some of the pink as well, because the pink should be the dominant color. So I'm going to get some of the pink, and I'm going to do a little bit of a splatter with the pink as well around these areas. So this way it's going to look like there's some of these pink flowers hanging out. And then the next thing you do is kind of spread some of this around, make it into vague flowers if you can. And then it will just look like flowers that are falling outward. So this is the time to do it while it's still damp. If you wait for it to dry, you're not going to be able to spread the color as much. So be mindful of that, and you should be good to go. Now at this stage, before we move on, I'm going to get some of this. I'm going to get you can continue to use this brush. Actually, you know what? Since I said we're only doing 2 brushes, I'm going to get the number 3, and we're going the same brush I've been using. I'm going to get some of the green, a very muted version of it. And what I'm doing is lightly grazing and kind of attaching to this to make it look like it's flowers that are extending outward. But it should be a lot lighter, like very, very light green. And the idea behind this is in Costa Brava, when we were there in 2025, earlier this year, they had such beautiful potted plants all around the place. It was absolutely stunning and gorgeous. It added such great finesse to the environment and the ambiance as a whole. It was just stunning. So I thought this is a great technique to kind of bring some of Costa Brava over here in anticipation of the Costa Brava Watercolour Retreat in May of 2026. So here we go, just dropping some additional dabs of green. You can drop some in between here as well. This is a very, very loose and fun way of painting something without adding way too much detail. So for the base, I'm going to use my number 6, and we are going to use a nice brown. So I think this is my dark brown that I'm using. Feel free to use like a Van Dyke or a mixture of 2 browns even. So I'm getting a mixture of it on my brush, and we are going to roughly create a base here. So I have an idea of where. So very lightly, just in case you don't really like the placement. And then create the bottom portion of this. And I always mess up my slanting areas here. It always bothers me. So I'm trying to go really loose and light here. Okay, so now that that's done, dipped my brush in water, and I'm going to just pull from upward down. And I'm painting in my pot. And what we're going to do is, just like we did with the flowers, we're going to build up from here. But also notice how I've left white space in between. When you leave white space in between for such loose style of painting, it really creates such a great breathing space, so that the eye, when you're watching it, it kind of goes according to the hierarchy of things. So I'm dropping in some of the darker brown at the base here because shadows, right? And then this part is called layering, when you add color while it is adding color over an area. It's also like a wet on wet style of layering. you can get a slightly different version of brown and just drop that in if you just want to get some like visual interest. So I'm just dropping a couple of strokes in here of this. I think this is almost like an English rose kind of color. And then back to the dark brown we go. By now, this has dried up a little bit. So I want to really emphasize this area here. So I'm just going back at the top and I'm dropping this color in. Then I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm lightly dropping this in. Now, if you have problems in terms of getting thin strokes using the number 6, I highly recommend using the number 3. The number 3 will give you thinner, finer results, and I think that should work just as well. And again, I'm just dabbing more of this on this side because it's nice to kind of show some areas that are darker for light and shadow effects. The more you drop color in an area, the more it'll stand out and give you great results. So notice the white space that I still have left, and we're good. Now, another thing you can do, because I like to show a little bit of a rim below the pot. So I'm going to use the back of my brush and I'm just going to draw in this line. And it needs to be done while it is damp, and that's how you get that nice line. Now I'm going to do another one here at the bottom. And you're just adding very loose detail to your loose style of painting. Now, if you feel like the areas have kind of blended, the colors have blended in too much and you just want to dab in more of the brown, you can. Just go get some more brown. Just wait for it to make sure that it's not super damp so that when you apply the brown, it stays there and it doesn't go down to the bottom. And then same thing here. And you are done. So once this is dried, you can take a brush marker. I'm using my Caron brush marker in black, and you can write a cute little message at the bottom. I'm just going to write hello. So then I can use this card as a hello card. Something generic. I don't have a lot of room, and so that's why I'm just going to keep things very simple. Write it in any format that you prefer. In school, growing up in India, we were made to learn cursive, and so this is why I am choosing to do it like so. And give it a little flourish here and there. And then just touching up some of the areas. And that is it. We've got a cute little message at the bottom with some ambiguous, loose colors blending together that reflect the flowers. And we have a cute little card. If you have reached this stage of the video, you are done. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Again, everything that we are painting in the Costa Brava series is reminiscent of things we're going to be experiencing or exploring at the Costa Brava Watercolour Retreat in May 2026. I'm dropping the link in the description of this video. Check it out if you plan on taking such a trip. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll chat soon. Bye.